Part 1. A curious discovery. The late afternoon sun cast a gentle, golden glow over the quiet streets of a small English town. It was the sort of place where nothing ever happened, at least, so it seemed to the casual observer. Shops with creaking signs lined the cobblestone roads, and the air carried the faint scent of baking bread from Mrs. Trowbridge's bakery at the corner. Among these modest establishments stood a tiny post office, distinguished by its faded red door and the neatly hand-painted letters on the window, Post Office and General Stores. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and cozy, yet slightly cluttered. Stacks of letters and parcels teetered precariously on every available surface. Behind the counter stood Mr. Jonathan Pritchard, a man of advancing years, with spectacles perched precariously on the bridge of his nose and a permanent crease of worry etched across his brow. He fussed with a pile of envelopes, muttering to himself about deliveries and misplaced stamps. It was here that the story began, though. At first, it appeared as nothing more than a trivial curiosity. Mr. Pritchard held in his hand a small, unassuming stamp, the value of sixpence, yellowed with age and slightly frayed at the edges. To anyone else, it would have seemed utterly ordinary. But for Mr. Pritchard, and soon for the famous detective Hercule Poirot, it was extraordinary. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured under his breath, examining the stamp with meticulous care. He was seated comfortably in the post office, his fingers lightly touching the delicate paper, his eyes narrowing as he studied the intricate design. His small, precise mustache twitched ever so slightly. Betraying his growing interest, "Mr. Pritchard," Poirot began, his French accent coloring each word with an air of refined curiosity. "You have summoned me here on account of this stamp?" "Yes, Monsieur Poirot," replied the postmaster, his voice tinged with anxiety. "I know it seems foolish, but there is something unusual about it. It came in a batch of old letters I was sorting through this morning. I found it tucked inside a letter addressed to a Mr. Edmund Fairchild. He lived here many years ago. There is a story, I think, attached to it." Poirot's eyes sparkled. "Ah, stories hidden in small things, how charming. Tell me everything, in order. Every detail, however trivial it may seem. You know, mon ami, it is in the trivial that the truth often hides." Pritchard cleared his throat nervously. "Well, the letter was old, perhaps from the 1870s. It spoke of a scrivener. Mr. Fairchild was a scrivener. You see, someone who wrote legal documents and wills. But there was mention of a secret, something about property, inheritance. And there was a reference to this stamp. It was to be preserved, it said, for when the time is right." Poirot tapped the stamp gently with a gloved finger. It is curious indeed. The scrivener, you say? And this letter, was there any indication of why it was hidden, or by whom?" "No," Pritchard admitted, wringing his hands. "But there is something else. The locals some claim to have seen a figure wandering near the Fairchild estate late at night. They say it is the ghost of the scrivener, come back to protect his secrets." Poirot's eyes twinkled with amusement, though he maintained his composed demeanor. "Ah, ghosts. The perfect diversion for human greed and folly. But mon ami, ghosts are never what they seem. We shall investigate this matter logically, step by step. Fear not." As Poirot studied the letter and stamp, he began to notice peculiar markings in the ink, almost as if the words were arranged in a pattern rather than ordinary sentences. He leaned closer, tilting his head. "Observe, Mr. Pritchard. The strokes of the pen are deliberate. There is intention here beyond mere writing. Something has been encoded." Pritchard stared in astonishment. "Encoded? But how? It's just a letter." "Ah, mais non," Poirot replied, smiling faintly. "The simplest things often conceal the greatest mysteries. And this, my dear friend, is the beginning of a curious tale indeed. I must examine this further." The post office seemed to grow quieter, as if holding its breath for the revelations to come. Poirot carefully wrapped the stamp in a protective envelope and tucked it into his case. His mind, a marvel of logic and intuition, was already piecing together possibilities, imagining the hidden connections, the secret motives, and the shadows of the past that clung to the small, yellowed piece of paper. Just then, Pritchard's assistant, a young man named Thomas, entered with a parcel. "Sir, there's someone at the door asking about the Fairchild estate. Says he's a historian, interested in old letters and documents." Poirot raised an eyebrow. "Ah, an historian. Perhaps a coincidence, or perhaps another thread in our intricate tapestry. We shall see." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the post office floor, Poirot made a silent vow. This sixpenny stamp, seemingly insignificant to the untrained eye, would reveal secrets long buried. The ghostly scrivener, if indeed he had ever existed, would not remain hidden forever. And somewhere in the quiet town, human greed and ambition were beginning to stir. Drawn irresistibly toward the secrets locked within ink and paper, Poirot leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers, his gaze fixed on the stamp. "Yes, this is no ordinary mystery, and I, Hercule Poirot, shall see it through step by meticulous step. For every secret, no matter how carefully concealed, leaves a trail. And I, mon ami, am very good at following such trails." Outside, the wind whispered through the narrow streets, rustling the letters and stirring the dust. The quiet town, so ordinary in appearance, was about to witness events that would unravel old mysteries and expose hidden truths. And so, with the simplest of objects, a tiny sixpenny stamp, began a story of intrigue, secrets, and shadows, one that would soon captivate Poirot's brilliant mind. Part 2. The Scrivener's Tale. The next morning, Hercule Poirot awoke in his modest hotel room in the town. The sun filtering gently through lace curtains, casting intricate patterns on the floor. He sipped his tea slowly, savoring each moment, but his mind was already racing through the puzzle that the sixpenny stamp had presented. Every detail mattered: the letter, the peculiar phrasing, the faded ink, and the mysterious scrivener whose legacy seemed to linger like a shadow over the town. Poirot's companion, Captain Hastings, was busy unpacking his notebook, though his brow was furrowed with a mixture of curiosity and bewilderment. "I still don't see what's so special about this stamp, Poirot. It's just a tiny piece of paper," he muttered. Poirot, with a faint smile, shook his head. "Ah, Hastings, you must learn that the value of an object is not in its size, but in the secrets it contains. The scrivener, this Monsieur Edmund Fairchild, has left us a trail. And though the trail is subtle, it is no less revealing. We must follow it, step by meticulous step." By mid-morning, they had arrived at the Fairchild estate, a sprawling but decaying mansion on the outskirts of town. Ivy climbed the walls, and the windows were streaked with dust and rain. The air on the house seemed heavy, as if it held memories better left undisturbed. The caretaker, an elderly woman named Mrs. Larkins, greeted them cautiously. "I don't know why anyone would come poking around here after all these years," she said, wringing her hands. "The house. It's not the same since Mr. Fairchild disappeared, some say. Some say his ghost still walks these halls." Poirot raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. "Ah, ghosts," he murmured, almost to himself. "They are but reflections of human fear, n'est-ce pas? Yet even reflections can reveal truths hidden to the eye." He and Hastings were led through the dimly lit corridors to the study, a room that had remained largely untouched for decades. Dust coated every surface, and the heavy curtains blocked most of the light. A large oak desk dominated the room, littered with faded letters, half-empty inkwells, and stacks of yellowed parchment. Poirot approached the desk with the grace of a cat, examining every corner with meticulous attention. He opened a drawer and carefully sifted through the papers. "Observe, Hastings," he said softly. "The hand of a scrivener is precise, deliberate, almost ritualistic. Each stroke of the pen tells a story, not only of the words, but of the person who wrote them. One document caught Poirot's eye, a ledger filled with carefully drafted contracts and notes. Most entries were mundane, but several lines were crossed out with deliberate care, and odd symbols were scribbled in the margins. C'est intéressant, Poirot whispered. These marks are not mere errors. They are intentional. Clues, perhaps, or warnings. As they explored, a sudden chill passed through the room. Hastings shivered and glanced around nervously. Did you feel that, Poirot? It's unnerving. Poirot nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing. Yes, Hastings. The atmosphere is thick with history. And with emotion. Fear, perhaps. Or perhaps anticipation. Someone living or dead wanted these secrets to remain hidden. But they have not accounted for the keen mind of Hercule Poirot. Mrs. Larkins interrupted with a hesitant voice. I suppose I should tell you. There have been sightings. Strange noises at night. Lights flickering in the study. And sometimes, a figure is seen walking the corridors when the house is empty. People say it's Mr. Fairchild himself, guarding what he left behind. Poirot listened carefully, his mind cataloging each statement. Yes, fascinating. The human imagination often gives shape to what is feared or desired. But in every legend, there is a kernel of truth. Our task, Hastings, is to find it. He returned to the desk and examined the ledger more closely. One note stood out, a simple entry in faded ink. The stamp holds the key. The unseen shall be revealed when the hour is right. Hastings frowned. The stamp again? What could a stamp possibly reveal? Poirot's eyes sparkled. Ah, mon ami, not the stamp itself, but what it represents. A message, a location, a secret preserved for decades. This scrivener, meticulous in life, would have hidden his intentions with the utmost care. And the ghost stories. They may serve to protect the secret from prying eyes. As they continued their search, Poirot noticed faint footprints in the dust, leading from the study to a side door. He knelt and examined them with care. Hastings, these are not recent. Yet someone has visited this room in the past weeks. Our mystery is more alive than it seems. Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed through the hallway. Poirot and Hastings exchanged a glance. The hairs on Hastings' neck stood on end. Poirot, however, remained composed, his small mustache twitching slightly in anticipation. From the shadows emerged a tall, gaunt figure, Mr. Pembroke, a local historian, who had apparently arrived to examine the Fairchild estate on his own. Ah, Monsieur Poirot. I had hoped to meet you, he said, his eyes darting nervously around the room. I am researching the scrivener, trying to uncover the history of his writings. Poirot regarded him carefully. Indeed. And what motivates you, monsieur, to pursue this history? Curiosity, or perhaps something more personal? Pembroke hesitated, his expression flickering with unease. Merely historical interest. I assure you, I mean no harm. Poirot smiled faintly, though his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. Very well. But in a house filled with secrets, monsieur, one must be prepared for surprises. As evening descended, casting the study into deep shadows, Poirot sat back and considered the day's discoveries. The stamp, the ledger, the ghostly tailies. And now the historian, all pieces of a puzzle that promised to be far more intricate than it first appeared. Hastings, still uneasy, asked, Do you really believe in the ghost, Poirot? Poirot's expression was unreadable, but his voice carried certainty. No, Hastings. Ghosts are but symbols, but the human greed and fear they inspire, that is very real. And it is upon this reality that our investigation will build. Tomorrow we shall delve deeper into the scrivener's secrets. And perhaps, just perhaps, we shall uncover the truth hidden for decades. Outside, The wind whispered through the dying leaves of the estate's overgrown gardens, carrying with it the sense of a story long buried, waiting to be revealed. And within the shadows of the old mansion, the legacy of the Scrivener lingered, enigmatic and beckoning. As Hercule Poirot prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. Part 3. Clues in Inkthie. Morning light filtered weakly through the heavy curtains of the Fairchild estate's study, painting the dust motes in gold. Outside, the wind whispered through the overgrown gardens, carrying the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional cry of a distant bird. Inside, Hercule Poirot sat cross-legged on a chair, the sixpenny stamp resting on the polished surface of the desk in front of him. Beside it lay a neatly arranged pile of letters, all penned by the meticulous hand of Edmund Fairchild. Captain Hastings, ever impatient with the subtleties of Poirot's methodical approach, watched anxiously. "Poirot, how can a few old letters and a tiny stamp help us solve anything? Surely the truth lies somewhere else?" Poirot, adjusting his iconic mustache, did not respond immediately. Instead, he ran his fingers lightly over the letters, examining each stroke of ink with a delicate precision that spoke of both reverence and analysis. "Ah, Hastings," he finally said, "it is precisely in these insignificant details that the truth hides. Observe the way Monsieur Fairchild has written certain letters, the spacing between words, the peculiar flourishes of his capital letters. These are not mere quirks of handwriting. They are signals, intentional and deliberate. Symbols placed carefully to guide or to mislead the keen observer." Hastings frowned. "Symbols? In handwriting?" Poirot nodded. "Mais oui. And the stamp? The sixpenny stamp mon ami is not merely currency for postage. It is a marker, a key, a silent witness to secrets hidden long ago." Poirot began to spread the letters across the desk, organizing them by date. Most were ordinary: requests for legal services, mundane contracts, notes on estates. But certain letters stood out. On the margins, there were small, almost imperceptible marks, a dot above a letter here, a tiny loop there, and occasionally, a faint underline beneath a single word. Poirot leaned closer, squinting. "Observe," he murmured, pointing to a series of small dots arranged in an unusual pattern across the edge of one letter. "At first glance, it is meaningless. But in combination with these loops and underlines, a pattern emerges. A code." Hastings scratched his head. "A code? What sort of code?" Poirot smiled, the twitch of his mustache betraying his excitement. "A very clever one. The simplest ciphers are often the most effective. Monsieur Fairchild was a scrivener, a man trained in secrecy, precision, and subtlety. He would hide nothing in plain sight, yet everything in plain view. This, Hastings, is an invitation to the patient mind to decipher his intentions." Hours passed as Poirot meticulously catalogued each mark, each peculiarity of handwriting, comparing them across multiple letters. He muttered to himself, occasionally tapping the stamp lightly with his finger, as though it were a pointer in a complex equation. "See here," he said, pointing to a letter dated June 1873. "The word estate is underlined twice, while the letter E at the beginning has a small loop above it. And on another letter, the word trust is dotted in the same manner. There's repetition, Hastings. A deliberate pattern. These are coordinates, perhaps directions, or a map hidden within text." Hastings leaned over, trying to follow Poirot's reasoning. "Coordinates? A map? In letters?" Poirot gave a faint shrug. "One must think like the author, Hastings. Monsieur Fairchild's mind was methodical, precise. He trusted in logic above all else. He would encode his secrets in the familiar letters, stamps, words, but only a mind trained to notice would discern their meaning. As Poirot worked, he noticed another anomaly. Certain letters had faint impressions, as if they had been written over with a heavier hand, leaving an indent in the paper below. He pressed the letters gently, revealing a hidden message, a sequence of numbers, almost imperceptible. Ah, numbers. The most elegant of all clues, Poirot whispered. This is no longer merely a letter, Hastings. This is a puzzle, a map to something far greater than the sum of its words. He traced the numbers carefully with his finger. 1, 2, 4, 7. 3 minus 9. And paused. It seems random, but with the proper key, it will reveal its secret. And the key, mon Dieu. The key may well be the stamp itself. Hastings glanced at the sixpenny stamp. How can a stamp be a key? Poirot held it gently between his fingers. Look closely, Hastings. Notice the design, the tiny letters at the edge, the emblem. This is not mere decoration, it is a cipher, a hint, a final piece to complete the puzzle. The stamp guides the mind of the observer to link letters and numbers, to follow a path that has remained hidden for decades. As the afternoon sunlight faded, the study grew dim, the shadows stretching across the floor. Poirot paused, looking out the window at the overgrown gardens. Hastings, do you feel it? The air itself seems charged with anticipation. The scrivener's presence lingers, not as a ghost, but as the meticulous imprint of his mind, guiding us, challenging us, from beyond the grave. Hastings shivered. It does feel strange, almost as if someone is watching us. Poirot's eyes twinkled. Ah, the human mind, always weaving stories from shadows. But remember, Hastings, some shadows are cast by truth and others by fear. It is our task to distinguish the two. By evening, Poirot had constructed a preliminary framework, linking letters, dots, loops, and numbers into what he believed was the first layer of the scrivener's code. Yet, he knew there was more layers upon layers of deception and logic. A labyrinth designed to protect a secret of great value. As they prepared to leave the estate, Poirot paused at the door, glancing back at the study. Hastings, tomorrow we shall begin the next stage. We must follow the trail, step by step, examining every detail with the eye of a hawk. For the sixpenny stamp, the letters, and the ghostly tailies are not isolated. They are threads of a single tapestry. And soon we shall begin to unravel it, revealing the hidden truths of the scrivener's legacy. Outside, the wind sighed through the old trees, rustling the leaves as if whispering secrets long buried. And within the shadowed walls of the Fairchild estate, the meticulous mind of Edmund Fairchild seemed to linger, guiding, testing, and challenging Hercule Poirot at every turn. Part 4. The Ghostly Encounter. Night had settled heavily over the Fairchild estate, blanketing the grounds in an almost tangible darkness. Outside, the wind moaned through the skeletal branches of the overgrown trees, and the rustling of leaves sounded like whispers of long-forgotten secrets. Inside, the mansion was unnervingly silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards underfoot. Hercule Poirot, ever meticulous, had insisted on remaining in the study late into the evening, reviewing the code he had begun to decipher from the letters and the sixpenny stamp. Captain Hastings, less comfortable with the eerie atmosphere, tried to maintain composure but kept glancing nervously at the shadows that seemed to twist and move in the corners of the room. Poirot, his small mustache twitching with both concentration and excitement, was hunched over the desk, running his finger along the sequence of numbers and symbols he had uncovered. Hastings, do you understand? This is no ordinary mystery. The scrivener has left not merely a puzzle, but a challenge. Each mark, each indentation, each seemingly innocuous dot is a test. And we must pass it, mon ami, if we are to uncover the truth. Hastings nodded, though uneasily. I understand, Poirot, but there's something else. I can feel it. Something is watching us. Poirot paused, lifting his head slightly. Ah, the imagination of man. Fear has a curious way of enhancing the senses. But let us not be distracted. We have work to do." Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the study, extinguishing the candles and plunging the room into near darkness. Hastings jumped, drawing a sharp breath. "Poirot, did you feel that?" Poirot calmly lit another candle, the flame trembling slightly as he held it aloft. The air is colder here than in the corridors. Notice, Hastings, how the temperature changes. There is no wind entering the room, yet it is. Distinct, interesting. A faint sound then echoed through the mansion, a soft, deliberate tapping, as though someone or something was walking across the floor above. Hastings clutched Poirot's arm. "Someone's up there. There's no mistaking it." Poirot's eyes narrowed, and he placed a finger to his lips. "She." "Listen." The tapping continued, irregular yet purposeful, moving slowly toward the study. Shadows danced on the walls, thrown by the flickering candlelight. Poirot's gaze shifted subtly, catching the faintest movement behind a partially open doorway. Then, as if materializing from the very darkness, a figure appeared, a tall, gaunt silhouette, moving with an almost unnatural grace. Hastings gasped audibly. It's him! The ghost! The Scrivener!" Poirot remained calm, studying the figure with his keen eyes. "Patience, Hastings. Observe, note every detail. The human mind can exaggerate what it fears. Now, let us see if this apparition is real, or merely clever deception." The figure moved closer, its features still hidden in shadow. It paused near the desk, and Hastings noticed something that made his blood run cold. The figure's hand reached toward the letters and the sixpenny stamp. Poirot, however, remained composed, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Ah, fascinating," he murmured. "Observe, Hastings, how deliberate its movements are. Not the erratic actions of a ghost, but the precision of someone who knows exactly what to find." Hastings shivered. "You think it's a person, but who? And why?" Poirot interrupted him, raising a hand. Do not speak. Let us observe." The figure, still silent, picked up a letter and held it to the candlelight. Poirot noted the careful manner in which it examined the paper, tilting it slightly to reveal the indentations and symbols hidden in the ink. Then, as if sensing their presence, the figure slowly turned. Hastings could now see the face of a man, middle-aged, gaunt, with sharp features and eyes that gleamed with intelligence rather than malevolence. Poirot leaned forward slightly. "Monsieur, or shall I say, sir, you have been studying these documents, n'est-ce pas? Tell me, what is your purpose?" The man paused, a faint smile appearing on his lips. "Purpose? Ah, Monsieur Poirot, the purpose is clear. I am here to protect what belongs to the Scrivener, and to ensure that no one unworthy discovers his secrets. You may call me Mr. Pembroke." Hastings blinked. "Pembroke? He was here earlier today. He's the historian. He's been pretending to be interested in history, but this is theft." Poirot's eyes sparkled. "Ah, mon ami, the true art of deception lies not in hiding, but in appearing ordinary. Mr. Pembroke believes the Scrivener's secrets are his for the taking. Yet he does not understand the mind he faces, and I understand Monsieur Fairchild's methods." Pembroke's expression darkened. "You think you can outwit me?" The Scrivener trusted no one but himself. And now, decades later, the same caution applies. These letters, these marks, they are mine to protect. Poirot rose slowly, his voice calm but firm. "Monsieur Pembroke, your motives are clear, but the Scrivener's true intentions are not yours to decide. The letters, the stamp, the codes, they were never meant for greed or possession. They were meant for revelation, for justice in the hands of one who seeks truth, not fortune." For a tense moment, silence filled the study. Pembroke seemed to consider Poirot's words, then slowly lowered the letter and stepped back, the ghostly aura fading as reason began to temper his intentions. Poirot turned to Hastings. his mustache twitching with satisfaction. "You see, Hastings, the ghost was never supernatural. It was human intelligence using legend and fear as tools. But human cleverness, no matter how cunning, cannot withstand logic and careful observation." Hastings exhaled deeply, relief evident on his face. I suppose you're right, Poirot. But it was terrifying. I've never felt such an atmosphere in my life." Poirot smiled faintly, looking once more at the sixpenny stamp and the letters. "Ah, mon ami, terror is but a reflection of the mind's awareness of its own ignorance. Once the mind sees clearly, fear dissipates, and the path to truth is revealed. And tomorrow we shall follow that path further, uncovering the layers of the Scrivener's hidden designs." Outside, the wind died down, leaving the night unnervingly still. Within the study, the echoes of the ghostly encounter lingered, not as specters of the past, but as a reminder that in the pursuit of truth, courage, patience, and reason are the greatest allies. And for Hercule Poirot, the mystery of the sixpenny stamp and the Scrivener's legacy was only just beginning. Part 5. Secrets of the Stamp. The morning sun had barely pierced the heavy clouds over the Fairchild estate when Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings returned to the study. The mansion, still cloaked in a quiet gloom, seemed almost alive, its walls whispering secrets long buried. The sixpenny stamp, carefully preserved in a small envelope, rested on the desk between them, as if it were the key to unlocking the past itself. Poirot picked up the stamp delicately, examining every tiny detail under the natural light. "Ah, Hastings," he murmured, "observe. The design is not merely decorative. Look at the arrangement of lines, the borders, the miniature engravings. Everything has significance. The Scrivener, meticulous in life, would leave no chance for oversight." Hastings peered closely, still struggling to see what Poirot saw. "I see little symbols, tiny letters." "Exactament," Poirot replied. "But it is not what you see at first glance that matters. It is the hidden message embedded in the design, revealed only by careful observation and comparison with the letters. You see, Hastings, this stamp was not meant for postage alone. It is a marker, a cipher, a pointer towards something far greater." Poirot began placing the stamp against various letters, aligning the edges and symbols. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Letters on the stamp corresponded to symbols and dots in the Scrivener's handwriting. "Ah, magnificent!" Poirot exclaimed quietly. "The Scrivener has hidden coordinates within the letters themselves. The stamp is the lens through which we can decode them." Hastings frowned, trying to follow. "Coordinates? Do you mean a map?" "Precisely, Hastings," Poirot said, his eyes sparkling. "But not an ordinary map. This is a mental map, designed to guide the mind to the location of the hidden secret. Each mark in the letters, each loop, each dot, corresponds to a letter, a number, or a direction. And the stamp is the key to interpreting them." Hours passed as Poirot worked meticulously, aligning the tiny symbols and dots. Hastings, ever loyal but increasingly impatient, watched him like a student observing a master at work. Finally, Poirot leaned back, a satisfied smile on his face. "Voila," he said, pointing at the table. "The letters, combined with the stamp, reveal a location hidden within the Fairchild estate itself. The Scrivener, cautious in life, feared that his secrets might fall into the wrong hands. So he created this elaborate system, a puzzle to protect what was most valuable." Hastings stared at him, astonished. "And what is it, Poirot? What did he hide?" Poirot's gaze was distant, contemplative. "Ah, Hastings, a treasure, yes, but not one of gold or jewels. The Scrivener hid documents, contracts, and perhaps most importantly, the evidence of rights to property long thought lost. There are claims, inheritances, and legal truths that the world has forgotten. And all of it is revealed only to those who can follow his design." At that moment, A soft sound interrupted their thoughts, a faint shuffle, almost imperceptible, coming from the corridor outside the study. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Hastings, someone approaches. And they are no doubt aware that we are uncovering what they themselves covet." Sure enough, Mr. Pembroke, the historian who had so recently posed as a ghost, appeared at the doorway. His face was tense, his hands slightly trembling. "I see. You have found something, Poirot." "Perhaps too much," he said, his voice low. Poirot, calm and composed, regarded him coolly. "Monsieur Pembroke, your curiosity has led you here. But you must understand, these secrets are not yours to claim by fear or intimidation. The Scrivener's legacy is for those who seek truth, not merely treasure." Pembroke's eyes narrowed. "I do not seek treasure. I seek knowledge. The Scrivener's methods, his genius. Surely you cannot deny me that." Poirot's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Knowledge, yes. But knowledge comes with responsibility. And in this case, responsibility includes the proper interpretation of codes, the careful following of instructions, and respect for the intentions of the Scrivener. You have sought shortcuts, monsieur. That will not suffice." Turning back to the stamp and letters, Poirot began demonstrating how the symbols aligned. "See here, Pembroke and Hastings, note this carefully. Each dot corresponds to a letter, each flourish to a number. When aligned with the stamp, a sequence emerges, a pathway, leading to a hidden compartment within the Fairchild estate. This is not guesswork. It is logic, mathematics, and artistry combined." Hastings leaned in closer, watching in amazement. "I can see it, Poirot. It's like a hidden message in plain sight." "Exactement," Poirot said. "And once we follow it correctly, we will uncover the Scrivener's secrets in full. But we must be precise. One error and the path is lost, and with it, the truth." For the next several hours, the three of them worked together, with Poirot guiding the process. The alignment of letters, numbers, and symbols revealed more than just a location. It revealed the Scrivener's thought process, his careful precautions, and his ultimate goal, to ensure that only a mind disciplined and patient enough could access what he had hidden. As night fell over the estate, Poirot finally leaned back in satisfaction. "Hastings, tomorrow we shall begin the physical search. The letters, the code, the stamp, they have guided us this far. Now the final stage approaches, and you will see, once again, that logic and observation triumph over fear, greed, and deception." Hastings, exhausted but exhilarated, shook his head. "I never imagined a little stamp could hold so much power. Poirot, you never cease to amaze me." Poirot's eyes sparkled with quiet pride. "Ah, mon ami, the simplest things are often the most profound. And in this case, the smallest stamp in the world opens the largest mystery." Outside, the wind had calmed, leaving the Fairchild estate cloaked in a hushed, expectant silence. Within its walls, secrets long buried waited patiently, their guardians unseen but ever vigilant. And Hercule Poirot, ever the master of deduction, prepared to follow the trail to its ultimate conclusion. Guided by the Sixpenny Stamp and the mind of a Scrivener who had outwitted time itself. Part 6. Suspects gather. The Fairchild estate was a house of shadows and whispers. By mid-morning, the once silent halls had begun to echo with the hurried footsteps and muted voices of visitors, summoned under Hercule Poirot's precise direction. The postmaster, Mr. Pritchard, had been instructed to bring a list of local residents and anyone known to have a connection, however distant, to the Fairchild family. And so it was that by noon, a modest assembly had gathered in the estate's grand drawing room, a room that had not known visitors for decades. Poirot, standing at the center with his small stature but commanding presence, surveyed the assembly carefully. His sharp, dark eyes flicked from one face to another, cataloging expressions, postures, and subtle nervous gestures. Even before a word was spoken, He had begun to form theories about each person's potential motives. "Madame et messieurs," he began, his voice smooth and precise, "I thank you for attending this unusual gathering. You are here because each of you has some connection, however slight, to the Fairchild estate or its former owner, Monsieur Edmund Fairchild. And now I seek to uncover certain truths hidden within this house, truths which concern property, letters, and a certain sixpenny stamp." A murmur spread across the room. Some faces betrayed curiosity, others anxiety, and a few, the most daring, showed a glimmer of greed. Poirot's eyes twitched slightly, his mustache quivering ever so subtly in anticipation. "Let us begin with introductions," Poirot continued. "Each of you will state your name, your relationship to the Fairchild family, and your interest in the estate." First, Mr. Thomas Larkins, the postmaster's assistant, stepped forward. I handle deliveries and letters for the post office. That's all, sir. I have no interest in any secrets or treasures." Poirot nodded politely but made a note in his mental ledger. "Ah, simplicity and honesty, perhaps. Yet even honesty can mask ambition. We shall see." Next was Mrs. Penelope Fairchild, a distant cousin of Edmund Fairchild, her eyes wary but proud. "I have family claims on the estate, yes," she admitted, "but only to ensure that what is rightly ours is protected. I would never stoop to dishonesty." Poirot's eyes flicked to her hands, folded neatly in her lap. "Ah, so your motivation is lineage and propriety. Admirable qualities. But let us not assume that family pride is incompatible with ambition." Then came Mr. Pembroke, the historian who had earlier posed as a ghostly guardian of the estate's secrets. His expression was guarded, yet there was a flicker of satisfaction as he glanced at the stamp and letters laid out on the table. "Pembroke," Poirot said, his voice carrying a subtle edge, "your knowledge of the Fairchild estate is extensive. Yet you have perhaps overstepped by attempting certain theatrics to claim knowledge prematurely. Pray tell, what is your true motivation?" Pembroke's lips tightened. "Knowledge, Monsieur Poirot. Knowledge of history, of the scrivener's genius." Poirot's mustache twitched. "Indeed, knowledge. And perhaps, monsieur, recognition or reward. For history, when properly interpreted, can be profitable as well as enlightening." Other individuals included local lawyers, business associates of Fairchild, and even the town's magistrate, each presenting an air of civility masking deeper ambitions. Poirot observed them all, noting the slight tightening of a jaw, a flick of the eye, a fidget of the hand. Every gesture, no matter how small, was a clue. Once introductions were complete, Poirot gestured toward the letters and the sixpenny stamp displayed on the table. "Mesdames et messieurs, I have discovered certain documents and markings which suggest that Monsieur Fairchild left instructions, hidden within codes, regarding property and valuables. Yet he did not leave them in plain sight. He challenged those who would seek them to follow logic, observation, and integrity. Those who act out of greed alone shall fail." A tense silence filled the room. Each individual considered their own position. A few faces paled. A few hardened. Even Hastings, standing beside Poirot, felt the weight of anticipation. Poirot then proceeded to describe the scrivener's meticulous methods without revealing the entire solution. Letters, dots, underlines, and even a seemingly insignificant sixpenny stamp. All are pieces of a puzzle. Follow the letters incorrectly, and the secret remains hidden. Follow them with precision, and the truth is revealed. But beware, missteps are observed, and intentions are discerned. A young man, Mr. Alistair Reed, stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, you suspect that one of us might act dishonestly?" Poirot's dark eyes met his. "I suspect nothing, monsieur. I observe. Observation is the foundation of truth. And through observation, the motives of men, their fears and ambitions become apparent. He began with small exercises, subtle tests, designed to reveal character. He asked each suspect to examine a letter or a symbol, to describe what they noticed. Some hesitated, clearly guessing. Others overthought, revealing their own desire to manipulate or control. Poirot's mind catalogued each response, each hesitation, and each contradiction, weaving a mental web of analysis that few could match. Hastings, ever curious, whispered to Poirot, "This is remarkable, Poirot. You are testing them without them knowing it." Poirot's eyes twitched with satisfaction. "Ah, Hastings, observation is an art. The smallest gestures, eye movement, breathing, the choice of words reveal more than any confession ever could. By the end of this gathering, the guilty, the ambitious, and the honest alike shall be revealed." Hours passed. Conversations, carefully guided by Poirot, began to reveal the tangled web of interests surrounding the estate. Mrs. Fairchild's distant relatives spoke of old grievances. Pembroke revealed reluctantly his ambition for recognition, and the lawyers displayed subtle territorial instincts over property rights. Poirot then introduced a more delicate test, a small, seemingly innocuous letter, partially obscured by dust, which he claimed to be a clue left by Fairchild. He asked each suspect to interpret it. Some read it quickly and inaccurately. Others hesitated and speculated. One individual, Mr. Jonathan Pritchard, the postmaster, examined it carefully and noted a minor symbol Poirot had emphasized. A faint smile appeared on Poirot's lips. "Ah, there is one among you with patience and attention, qualities essential to discovery." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the drawing room, Poirot finally addressed the assembly. "Mesdames et messieurs, tonight you have displayed yourselves in manner and character. You have revealed your desires, your fears, and your ambitions. And remember, every word, every gesture, every glance has been noted. Tomorrow we shall proceed further, and only those whose motives align with integrity shall uncover the truth of the Scrivener's legacy." A hush fell over the room. Even Pembroke, who had tried to appear confident and composed, felt the subtle weight of Poirot's scrutiny. The tension was palpable, like the charged air before a storm. Poirot turned to Hastings, speaking softly but firmly. "Hastings, observe well. Each of these individuals carries potential for both success and failure. Some are honest, some ambitious, some cunning. Our task is to follow the path of logic, to unravel the letters, the stamp, and the codes. And when the time comes, the guilty shall be revealed, not by force, but by the revelation of truth itself." Hastings nodded, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "I understand, Poirot, but it's remarkable how you can see into people like that." Poirot's dark eyes gleamed. "Ah, Hastings, human nature leaves no secrets if one knows where and how to look. And in matters such as this, one must see not only the letters and the codes, but the hearts and minds behind them." As night deepened over the Fairchild estate, the suspects departed one by one, each retreating to ponder their own ambitions and fears. The drawing room, now silent, seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next day of revelations. Poirot and Hastings remained behind, examining once more the letters and the sixpenny stamp. The web grows more intricate. "Hastings," Poirot said quietly, "and the human factor is always the most delicate thread. Observe carefully, act with patience, and the Scrivener's secrets will be revealed. Fail, and you will see only shadows and whispers." Hastings shivered slightly. This is no ordinary case, Poirot. I've never felt anything like it." Poirot smiled faintly, his mustache twitching with quiet satisfaction. "Ah, Hastings, the greatest mysteries often begin with small, quiet objects, a stamp, a letter, a glance. And from such modest beginnings, entire worlds of intrigue may unfold. Tomorrow we follow the path further, and the truth draws nearer. The game, Hastings, The game has truly begun. Asterisk Part 7. Hidden Motivations. The morning sun cast a muted glow over the Fairchild estate, barely piercing the overgrown hedges and ivy that had long claimed the grounds. The mansion, quiet and solemn, seemed to anticipate the revelations that the day would bring. Inside the grand drawing room, Hercule Poirot stood at the center, examining each suspect with the intensity of a hawk observing its prey. His small, precise mustache twitched ever so slightly, a subtle signal of the mental gears turning behind his calm facade. Hastings, standing beside him, could feel the tension in the air. "Poirot," he whispered, "I can barely keep track of everyone's motives. Some seem honest, some greedy, and others I can't tell at all." Poirot nodded slightly, his eyes scanning the room. "Ah, Hastings, human nature is the most intricate cipher of all. Each person here is a piece of the puzzle. And to solve the mystery of the Scrivener's legacy, one must understand not only the letters, the stamp, and the codes, but the desires that drive men and women to act." Poirot began with Mr. Pembroke, the historian who had posed as the ghost of the Scrivener. "Monsieur Pembroke," Poirot began, his voice smooth but firm, "you claim to seek knowledge alone. Yet yesterday, your gaze lingered upon the stamp longer than necessary, and your hands twitched at the opportunity to manipulate the letters. Pray, tell me what drives you truly." Pembroke hesitated, then spoke, his tone guarded. I seek recognition. The Scrivener was a genius, and if I uncover his secrets, I shall gain both fame and the satisfaction of unraveling his mind." Poirot's eyes glinted. "Recognition, yes. And perhaps prestige, which is another form of reward. You have ambition, monsieur, and ambition can be a dangerous guide when confronted with secrets that are not yours to claim." Next, Poirot turned to Mrs. Penelope Fairchild. "Madame, your concern for family inheritance is understandable, but you have shown subtle signs of impatience, and your eyes dart toward certain documents more than others. Is it duty or desire that moves you?" Mrs. Fairchild's lips pressed together tightly. "I act out of duty," she replied, though Poirot detected the tension in her fingers. "I wish only to ensure the estate remains within the family." "Ah, duty. Often intertwined with pride," Poirot murmured. "And pride, when unchecked, can lead to deception. Observe carefully, Hastings, how even the most honest souls carry shadows of desire." Hastings shifted uneasily, noting the meticulous attention Poirot paid to each subtle gesture. "I can see why you are so precise, Poirot. Every flicker of expression is a clue." Poirot moved to Mr. Alistair Reed, a young man whose eyes gleamed with curiosity, bordering on greed. "Monsieur Reed," he said, "you display interest in the letters beyond what would be necessary for simple comprehension. Your fingers linger upon the edges, your eyes dart toward the underlines and symbols. Are you guided by curiosity or by hope of reward?" Reed swallowed hard, then admitted reluctantly, I want to ensure the estate is preserved, but yes, I admit, there is hope that some benefit might come to me if I understand the secrets fully." Poirot's mustache twitched, a small smile playing on his lips. "Ah, hope. A subtle motivator, more dangerous than greed, for it disguises itself as innocence. And it is often the hope that blinds men to the logic that must guide them." He then moved toward the group as a whole. "Observe, Hastings. Each person here carries a hidden motive. Some seek wealth, some recognition, some familial honor. And each of these motives will color their judgment, perhaps even mislead them when they attempt to follow the Scrivener's instructions." Poirot drew a deep breath, leaning slightly forward. "It is fascinating, is it not, that human desire mirrors the complexity of the code itself. The letters, the stamp, the hidden numbers, all are designed to reward only those who combine logic with integrity, patience with observation. And so we must ask, who among you is capable of following truth, not desire. A murmur ran through the room. Pembroke's eyes narrowed slightly, while Reed's hands fidgeted. Mrs. Fairchild's expression hardened, and even the quiet postmaster, Mr. Pritchard, showed a hint of tension. Each suspect, whether aware or not, had revealed fragments of their true nature. Poirot turned to Hastings, his voice low. "Hastings, note this. Every subtle gesture, every hesitation, every flicker of the eye is a thread in the tapestry. Those who act purely from desire will falter. Those who act from reason and patience will succeed. The scrivener's genius lies not only in the code, but in his understanding of human nature." Hastings nodded, awed. "I see it now, Poirot. You're not just deciphering letters. You're deciphering people." "Exactly, Hastings. And the human cipher is far more revealing than any ink or paper. Now observe closely, for the next stage of our investigation will put these motives to the test." Poirot then introduced a practical exercise. He handed each suspect a letter containing a minor portion of the scrivener's code, asking them to attempt alignment with the Sixpenny Stamp. The task seemed simple, yet each subtle error revealed much about the person attempting it. Pembroke rushed, his hands trembling slightly, misaligning the letters in his eagerness to demonstrate knowledge. Reed hesitated, overthinking each symbol, revealing both hope and insecurity. Mrs. Fairchild approached with care, yet her impatience became evident as she glanced repeatedly at the other participants. Even Mr. Pritchard, usually calm and measured, showed signs of internal conflict, unsure how far to engage. Poirot observed all in silence, cataloging every misstep and subtle hesitation. "Ah, human nature," he murmured, more to himself than to Hastings. "So transparent when one knows how to observe." As the afternoon wore on, tensions grew. Whispered conversations, sidelong glances, and subtle shifts of position revealed alliances, rivalries, and ambitions. Pembroke, frustrated by his inability to master the alignment, muttered under his breath. Mrs. Fairchild's eyes lingered on the papers with a mixture of pride and anxiety. Reed's youthful eagerness bordered on recklessness. Each suspect had unwittingly exposed the true nature of their motivations. Poirot finally addressed them all. "Mesdames et messieurs, you have demonstrated your intentions, whether you realize it or not. Some seek truth, some seek wealth, some recognition, and others merely wish to assert control. Remember, the scrivener's code is impartial. It rewards only logic and patience. Desire alone will mislead, as you have all glimpsed today." A tense silence filled the room. Pembroke's jaw tightened, Reed shifted uneasily, and Mrs. Fairchild's hands clenched into fists. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the mansion itself waited for the next move in this carefully orchestrated drama. Poirot turned to Hastings with a faint smile. "Hastings, the hidden motivations have now been revealed. Tomorrow we shall proceed further into the estate, following the code more closely. And it is here, at the intersection of human ambition and logic, that the true test of character begins. The scrivener's secret waits for those who are worthy, and those who are not shall stumble, revealing themselves in ways even they do not anticipate." Hastings exhaled, feeling both awe and trepidation. "I can already see, Poirot, that the human element is more intricate than any code. The letters, the stamp, they are only part of the puzzle. The real challenge is understanding the people." Poirot's dark eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Exactly, Hastings. The human mind, when observed carefully, is the ultimate cipher. And today, we have made great progress. The stage is set, the players revealed, and the path to truth grows ever clearer. The scrivener's legacy awaits those who can navigate both the code and the hearts of men." As evening fell, the suspects departed, each lost in thought, some plotting, some uncertain. The Fairchild estate, silent once more, seemed to hum with anticipation. And in the quiet study, Poirot and Hastings pored over the letters and the Sixpenny Stamp. preparing for the next stage of their investigation, where logic, patience, and understanding of human nature would converge to reveal the ultimate secret. Asterisk. Part 8. The trap is set. The day dawned gray and overcast over the Fairchild estate, as though the sky itself anticipated the unfolding drama within the ancient walls. The air was heavy with dampness and the faint scent of decaying leaves from the neglected gardens. Inside, the mansion seemed charged, every shadow a whisper of secrets yet to be revealed. Hercule Poirot moved with quiet precision, preparing for the next stage of his investigation. Today, the trap he had been carefully planning would be sprung. Captain Hastings followed him, notebook in hand but eyes wide with anticipation. "Poirot, I must confess, I am both excited and nervous. I have never seen you set up anything like this before. How do you know it will work?" Poirot adjusted his small, meticulously trimmed mustache, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. "Hastings, when one understands human nature and the meticulous planning of the Scrivener, one does not merely guess. One calculates, predicts, and positions events so that the truth reveals itself naturally. Our trap does not force revelation. It allows it to emerge." By mid-morning, the suspects had been summoned once more to the grand drawing room. Mr. Pembroke, Mrs. Penelope Fairchild, Mr. Alistair Reed, Mr. Jonathan Pritchard, and a few other local figures returned, each under the pretense of continuing the examination of the letters and the sixpenny stamp. Poirot greeted them all warmly, his small stature belying the sharp intensity in his eyes. "Mesdames et messieurs, today we take a decisive step forward. The letters, the symbols, and the stamp have guided us to a critical juncture. But to proceed further, one must follow logic and precision. All deviations will be observed." The room was filled with a tension so thick that even Hastings felt it pressing upon his chest. Each suspect shifted slightly, measuring their own confidence. Aware that Poirot's reputation for detection was formidable, Poirot began by distributing copies of select letters from the Scrivener's collection, carefully omitting certain portions to observe how the suspects would respond. "You will each examine these letters," he instructed, "and attempt to align them with the sixpenny stamp to discern the next step in the sequence. Remember, accuracy is paramount. Only the correct interpretation will lead to the hidden compartment within the estate." Pembroke immediately pounced on the letters, aligning them with the stamp with eager, hurried movements. Hastings noticed the subtle twitch of his fingers as he struggled to interpret the code. Reed hesitated, meticulously examining every symbol and dot. Clearly torn between careful observation and the temptation to guess, Mrs. Fairchild approached the task with outward composure. Yet her eyes betrayed a mixture of impatience and anxiety. Poirot observed silently, cataloging every gesture, every hesitation, every misstep. "Ah, observe, Hastings," he murmured. "The human mind reveals itself in the smallest movements. Fear, greed, ambition, all are apparent if one knows how to look." As the suspects worked, Poirot subtly guided the discussion. He asked pointed questions about the letters, prompting them to consider certain alignments while leaving others ambiguous. Some suspects misinterpreted these hints, revealing overconfidence. Others hesitated, betraying doubt and impatience. All the while, Poirot remained calm, his mustache twitching ever so slightly with satisfaction. After several tense minutes, Poirot called the room to attention. "Mesdames et messieurs, I believe we have observed much. But now the next stage. We shall proceed to the location indicated by the code. Those who have misinterpreted the letters will find themselves at a dead end. Those who act with logic and precision will reveal the truth." Hastings whispered, "Poirot, do you really intend to let them go physically to the location? Isn't that risky?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Hastings, risk is only perceived by those who do not calculate. The trap is not physical. It is mental. The Scrivener designed the code to reward patience and precision. The moment of revelation will occur naturally. The group moved as instructed, following the code through the shadowed corridors of the mansion. Poirot and Hastings stayed behind momentarily, watching the suspects from a concealed position, noting each deviation, each error in interpretation. Pembroke, in his eagerness, aligned the letters incorrectly and proceeded to the wrong corridor. Reed overthought and hesitated, losing precious time. Mrs. Fairchild moved quickly, her sense of urgency causing minor errors in her alignment. Only one individual, Mr. Pritchard, moved with measured precision, examining the symbols carefully and cross-referencing them with the sixpenny stamp exactly as Poirot had deduced they should. Poirot's small smile broadened. "Ah, it is as I suspected. One mind acts with clarity, guided by logic rather than desire. And the rest reveal themselves through missteps." In the main hall, the tension built as the first signs of the trap manifested. A concealed panel, previously unnoticed in the wall of the library, began to shift subtly. Hastings noticed a faint click. "Poirot, is that?" "Yes, Hastings," Poirot replied, his voice calm but filled with satisfaction. "The mechanism responds only to the correct sequence. Observe, for the Scrivener's design is flawless." Pembroke arrived at the library, only to find that the panel did not move. His expression twisted in frustration. "Impossible!" he exclaimed, clearly rattled. "I followed the instructions almost." Poirot emerged from his concealed position, walking with his usual composed precision. "Ah, monsieur, almost is never enough. Accuracy, patience, and understanding are required. The Scrivener's mind is clear, and only those who mirror his diligence may succeed." Mrs. Fairchild arrived moments later, her impatience causing the panel to remain locked. Hastings whispered, "They don't even realize how close they were." Poirot nodded. "And therein lies the beauty of the trap, Hastings. Human ambition blinds many. Only the disciplined mind, untainted by desire, may succeed. And now, observe." Mr. Pritchard approached the library, following the sequence with meticulous care. The panel, recognizing the correct alignment, swung open silently, revealing a hidden compartment within the wall. Gasps echoed through the hall as the compartment was illuminated, revealing stacks of documents, sealed letters, and a small, intricately carved box. Poirot's eyes glimmered with triumph. Voila! The Scrivener's secret revealed, not by force, not by luck, but by reason, patience, and respect for the method. And now, Hastings, observe the reactions of the others. Pembroke and Mrs. Fairchild watched, their faces pale, frustration and envy mingling in their expressions. Reed's jaw tightened in silent disappointment. Each had revealed their hidden motivations, simply through their errors, through the inability to follow logic without being swayed by desire or impatience. Poirot carefully removed the small carved box from the compartment, examining it under the light. Inside, he found a collection of documents confirming property claims, legal contracts, and a ledger detailing assets and bequests. Most importantly, the sixpenny stamp, the letters, and the codes had all converged to reveal the Scrivener's carefully protected legacy. He turned to the assembled group. "Mesdames et messieurs, observe. The Scrivener's legacy is not merely wealth or property, it is the triumph of logic, observation, and integrity. Those who acted with impatience or desire revealed themselves. Those who acted with care, like Mr. Pritchard here, succeeded." A hush fell over the room. The weight of revelation settled on each person differently. Admiration, envy, humility, or frustration. The trap, perfectly set, had accomplished its goal, revealing both the hidden legacy and the true nature of each suspect. Poirot turned to Hastings, his small mustache twitching with quiet satisfaction. "Hastings, the trap is complete. The Scrivener's design has succeeded. And observe, once more, how human nature mirrors the complexity of the code itself. Desire leads astray. Patience and observation reveal truth. Hastings exhaled, a mixture of relief and awe. It's incredible, Poirot. You didn't force the truth, you let it reveal itself. Poirot smiled faintly. Exactly, Hastings. In every mystery, one must not merely seek answers, but create conditions under which truth naturally emerges. And now, we move to the final stage, unmasking the culprit who sought to exploit these secrets for personal gain. Outside, the Fairchild estate remains silent, its secrets now partially revealed, yet still whispering through the walls. Inside, Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings prepared for the climactic resolution of the mystery, confident that logic, observation, and human insight would soon bring justice to the Scrivener's carefully guarded legacy. Part 9. Unmasking the culprit. The evening settled heavily over the Fairchild estate, the shadows in the grand drawing room stretching long and dark across the polished floors. The hidden compartment had been opened, the Scrivener's documents revealed, and the Sixpenny Stamp's secrets uncovered. Yet the mystery was far from over. One final revelation remained identifying: the individual who had sought to exploit the Scrivener's carefully guarded legacy for personal gain. Hercule Poirot stood before the assembled group of suspects, his small figure commanding attention despite his unassuming stature. The Sixpenny Stamp rested on the table before him, alongside the meticulously aligned letters and the recently recovered documents. His eyes, sharp and glinting with quiet triumph, swept across the faces of the room, cataloging every expression, every flicker of emotion. "Madame et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice smooth yet compelling, "we have reached the culmination of our investigation. The letters, the codes, the Sixpenny Stamp all have led us to the Scrivener's hidden compartment, and within it we find the truth of his legacy. But revelation does not end with discovery alone. One among you sought to manipulate, to use these secrets for personal advantage." A tense silence followed. Even Hastings, standing at Poirot's side, felt the atmosphere thickening, the weight of anticipation pressing down. The suspects shifted uneasily, each wondering who would be revealed as the culprit. Poirot continued, pacing slowly. "Observe carefully, Hastings, and all present. The Scrivener's genius lay not only in his codes, but in his understanding of human nature. And human nature, as we have seen, is revealed in the smallest of gestures: hesitation, impatience, greed, and deception." He turned to Mr. Pembroke, whose face betrayed a mixture of indignation and anxiety. "Monsieur Pembroke, you presented yourself as a guardian of the Scrivener's legacy, even attempting theatrics to mislead others. You sought to intimidate and manipulate, yet your actions yesterday revealed a critical truth. You rushed, you misaligned, and your eagerness betrayed your desire." Pembroke's jaw tightened. I only wish to understand. I never intended harm." Poirot raised a finger slightly, his eyes never leaving Pembroke's. But monsieur, intention and outcome are inseparable. Your knowledge of the letters was considerable, yes, but it was tainted by ambition, by impatience. You could not follow the code with the precision required. The Scrivener's design revealed your true nature, as it revealed the nature of all who attempted to claim his secrets unworthily. Hastings whispered, "Poirot, you've known it all along, haven't you?" Poirot's eyes twinkled faintly. "Mais oui, Hastings. One must observe, not merely for the sake of documents, but to discern the impulses behind the actions. Human error, guided by desire, exposes more than words ever could." Poirot then shifted his attention subtly, addressing the others. "Consider Mrs. Penelope Fairchild. Your patience and care were admirable, yet your ambition and familial pride were transparent. You followed the code carefully, yet your gaze repeatedly sought validation. Pride is a subtle motivator, yes, but it does not diminish the integrity you demonstrated in practice. Observe, Hastings, how motives vary in intensity and influence behavior. The tension thickened. Mr. Alistair Reed, younger and visibly anxious, fidgeted with his hands. Poirot's keen gaze caught his subtle gestures. Monsieur Reed, your hesitation and overthinking yesterday revealed the conflict between curiosity and desire. A mind torn between patience and impatience is easily diverted, and thus the Scrivener's tests discerned your limitations. Finally, Poirot's gaze fell upon Mr. Jonathan Pritchard, the postmaster. Calm, measured, and precise, Pritchard had followed the sequence correctly, revealing the hidden compartment without deviation. Poirot's small smile was approving. Ah. And here, Hastings, we find the mind attuned to the Scrivener's logic. No ambition clouded the judgment, no impatience diverted attention. Observe how the careful, disciplined mind triumphs over those driven by desire. Pembroke's face reddened, his frustration barely contained. So it was simply patience and careful observation? That is all it took? Poirot's eyes gleamed. Mais oui. The Scrivener trusted not fortune nor force, but reason and precision. Those who allowed desire, haste, or ego to dictate their actions revealed themselves without the need for accusation. The trap, Hastings, worked perfectly. Poirot then addressed the assembled group collectively. Mesdames et messieurs, the Scrivener's legacy is revealed. Documents detailing property, contracts, and bequests long hidden. But more importantly, the method itself reveals a universal truth, that human nature, observed carefully, betrays intentions. And it is through this careful observation that the true character of each individual is unmasked. He paused, letting the words sink in, then directed a calm but firm statement toward Pembroke. You, monsieur, sought to manipulate circumstances through deception and ambition. Your actions yesterday, guided by impatience, betrayed your intent. And thus, the Scrivener's design exposed you. Pembroke's hands trembled slightly as he realized the inevitability of Poirot's deduction. I see. The letters, the stamp. It was never about me being clever, was it? Poirot shook his head, his small mustache quivering in a subtle smile. Ah, monsieur, cleverness is insufficient without discipline. Observation, patience, and integrity. These are the qualities the Scrivener trusted to reveal his secrets. Ambition, while potent, leads only to error when untethered by reason. Turning to Mr. Pritchard, Poirot offered a nod of acknowledgement. And you, monsieur, demonstrated precision and careful judgment. Your understanding of the letters, alignment with the stamp, and measured approach allowed the Scrivener's legacy to be revealed faithfully. You have acted with integrity, and for this, you are to be commended. The room, silent until this point, now vibrated with a mixture of relief, awe, and quiet tension. Mrs. Fairchild exhaled softly, accepting her partial failure with grace, while Reed and the others reflected on their missteps. Pembroke, frustrated but enlightened, seemed to reconcile with the outcome, recognizing the brilliance of the trap and the lessons in patience and observation. Poirot turned to Hastings, his small figure framed against the fading light from the windows. Hastings, observe well. The human mind, when guided by desire alone, will stumble. But when guided by reason, patience, and careful observation, truth emerges clearly. The Scrivener understood this perfectly, and so has the mystery been resolved, not through force, but through natural revelation. Hastings shook his head, still in awe. It's extraordinary, Poirot. The entire mystery, from the sixpenny stamp to the letters, to the human reactions, everything has come together. And the culprit exposed, not by accusation, but by their own nature. Poirot's eyes sparkled with satisfaction. Ah, Hastings, this is the elegance of deduction. One need only observe carefully, understand motives, and allow the design to unfold. The Scrivener's mind was brilliant, and in the end, his tests revealed both the secret and the character of those who sought it. The evening drew to a close, the shadows lengthening across the drawing room. Outside, the wind whispered through the overgrown trees, as if acknowledging the resolution of a puzzle long protected by secrecy and clever design. Within the Fairchild estate, Hercule Poirot's calm yet penetrating intellect had unraveled the mysteries of the Sixpenny Stamp, the hidden letters, and the Scrivener's legacy, unmasking the culprit and affirming the supremacy of observation, logic, and integrity. And so, the case of the Sixpenny Stamp and the Scrivener's ghost reached its triumphant conclusion, proof once again that no deception, ambition, or misstep can withstand the quiet brilliance of Hercule Poirot. Part 10. Resolution and Legacy. The first light of dawn filtered through the tall, ornate windows of the Fairchild estate, casting a soft golden glow over the drawing room. The long night of revelations, missteps, and carefully orchestrated tests had passed. The hidden compartment, the Sixpenny Stamp, and the intricate letters of the Scrivener had unveiled secrets long buried. And now, with the culprit unmasked and the legacy exposed, Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings were left to contemplate the full measure of the case, as well as its enduring lessons about human nature. Hastings stood near the window, watching the morning mist curl around the overgrown gardens, his thoughts heavy with awe. "Poirot," he murmured, his voice tinged with disbelief, "it's over. The letters, the codes, the stamp, the Scrivener's secrets, everything has been revealed. And yet, somehow, it feels as if the estate itself still whispers. There is still a weight here, a presence." Poirot, seated calmly at the center of the drawing room, meticulously arranged the recovered documents and the small carved box containing the most sensitive papers. His dark eyes, so small yet so penetrating, swept across the room with a quiet satisfaction. "Hastings, the weight you feel is not merely the physical presence of the estate, nor the tangible artifacts of the Scrivener's work. It is the weight of wisdom, carefully concealed, and of human nature observed in its truest form. The Scrivener created not just a puzzle, but a moral lesson for those who would seek his secrets." Hastings frowned slightly, peering at the papers on the table. "A moral lesson? Do you mean about the people who tried to manipulate the letters and the stamp?" Poirot's lips curled in a subtle smile. "Exactly, mon ami. Observe, each individual revealed themselves through their own impulses, motives, and ambitions. Monsieur Pembroke, driven by a mixture of curiosity and desire for recognition, faltered despite his considerable knowledge. Mrs. Fairchild, guided partially by duty, yet clouded by pride, displayed care yet also minor errors. Even Mr. Reed, though eager and bright, allowed impatience to dictate his actions. And yet, Mr. Pritchard, calm, precise, and disciplined, followed the logic perfectly, demonstrating that integrity and patience triumph over unchecked ambition." Hastings shook his head in wonder. "It's remarkable, Poirot. You didn't force anyone to confess, you just let their true nature show itself." "Mais oui," Poirot replied, his mustache twitching with quiet satisfaction. The Scrivener, with meticulous foresight, understood that human nature is the ultimate cipher. One cannot outwit a code without first understanding the mind that interprets it. The trap, Hastings, was never merely about letters or stamps. It was about revealing character, observing actions, and discerning truth from desire. The room remained silent for a few moments, the soft morning light highlighting the dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Poirot reached for the small carved box once more, lifting it carefully. Inside were contracts, bequests, and records of property, along with a series of letters written by the Scrivener himself. Hastings leaned closer, curiosity mingling with reverence. "These letters, they explain everything?" he asked quietly. Poirot nodded. "Oui, the Scrivener's own hand leaves no ambiguity, yet he anticipated that human motives would obscure clarity. Each line, each symbol, each instruction was crafted to test patience, observation, and logic. And now, Hastings, we can read his final intentions. Hastings listened intently as Poirot began to summarize the contents of the letters. The scrivener had not hidden wealth for selfish gain, nor had he sought to reward those merely clever enough to decode his messages. Instead, he had created a meticulous system to ensure that the Fairchild estate would pass into the hands of those capable of reasoning, of careful thought, and of integrity. Those who acted out of desire alone were excluded, their ambitions revealed but unrewarded. "Notice, Hastings," Poirot said, "how he intertwines the physical and the psychological. The letters, the sixpenny stamp, the hidden compartments, all are tangible. But the true test was never physical. It was in observing human behavior, patience, and judgment. The scrivener understood human nature perfectly, as all great minds do." Hastings sighed, a mixture of relief and admiration in his voice. "It's almost overwhelming, Poirot. I can see how some people would fail, even if they were clever. And the one who succeeded, Mr. Pritchard, right?" Poirot inclined his head. "Oui." Calm, observant, precise, he followed the instructions exactly, without allowing emotion, desire, or impatience to cloud his judgment. It is he who is worthy of the scrivener's legacy, and in this, we see the ultimate lesson of the puzzle: character and intellect, harmonized, reveal truth where desire alone fails. Hastings glanced at the assembled documents and letters once more. So the mystery wasn't just about property or a stamp, it was about people, Poirot. Human nature. "Exactly, Hastings," Poirot said, his small eyes twinkling. "The scrivener's genius was not in hiding objects, but in revealing character. And in doing so, he ensures that those unworthy are exposed not through force, but through their own impulses. It is a perfect moral design, elegant and instructive." As they continued examining the documents, Poirot and Hastings discussed the implications. The estate, once a repository of secrets and subtle traps, was now ready to pass into the hands of those who had demonstrated both reasoning and integrity. Mr. Pritchard, though modest and quiet, would now assume responsibility for managing the estate in accordance with the scrivener's intentions. Poirot, carefully replacing the letters in their respective envelopes, turned to Hastings. "Observe, Hastings, how justice has been served, not through confrontation or accusation, but through reason and careful planning. The guilty were revealed, the worthy rewarded, and the lessons preserved for the future." Hastings nodded slowly. "It's a different kind of justice, Poirot. Not about punishment, but about revelation and reward based on character." "We, Hastings. And notice also the lesson for ourselves. Patience, observation, and the study of human nature are as vital as intelligence itself. In every mystery, these qualities allow one to discern truth amidst deception, to see beyond appearances into the essence of events and people." The morning sun had now fully risen, bathing the Fairchild estate in warm light. The mansion seemed to breathe, as if relieved that its long-hidden secrets had finally been unveiled. Even the shadows, once thick and ominous, appeared softer, less threatening. Poirot rose from his chair, placing the sixpenny stamp carefully back in its envelope. "And now, Hastings, we leave the estate in capable hands. The scrivener's legacy is safe, the secrets revealed, and the lessons imparted. All that remains is reflection on the human mind, the nature of desire, and the triumph of reason over impatience and ambition." Hastings smiled, a mixture of exhaustion and admiration. "Poirot, I've seen clever detectives before, but never anyone who sees into the heart of human nature the way you do. The letters, the stamp, the trap. It was never just a puzzle. It was a mirror to those who attempted to solve it." Poirot inclined his head, a faint, contented smile tugging at his lips. "Ah, Hastings, the true joy of detection lies not merely in finding answers, but in understanding. Understanding people, understanding motives, and understanding the subtle interplay between intellect and character. The sixpenny stamp, the letters, the scrivener's hidden compartments, they are but instruments through which the mind and human nature are revealed. As the two friends left the grand drawing room, walking slowly through the corridors that had so long held secrets and whispers, Hastings looked back at the estate. "I think I finally understand Poirot. The scrivener wasn't just clever, he was a teacher, in a way, teaching about human nature and about patience and integrity." Poirot's dark eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. "We, Hastings, and we fortunate enough to witness it, have learned much, not only about mystery, but about ourselves and the people around us. That, mon ami, is the true legacy of the scrivener. The sixpenny stamp and the hidden letters." Outside, the Fairchild estate basked in the golden morning light, its secrets unveiled, its lessons imparted, and its legacy secure. The wind whispered gently through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of a mystery solved with patience, observation, and profound understanding of human nature. And as Poirot and Hastings walked away from the estate, they carried with them not only the satisfaction of a case concluded, but the enduring wisdom of the scrivener, whose intricate puzzle had revealed so much more than mere property. It had revealed the essence of human character itself.